Hello and welcome. Hello, hello. Dr. K,
Hello.
how are you?
Good afternoon. Good. I'm good. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good evening. I'm great, thank you.
It's good
So,
to see you again.
it's pleasure to see you. Very good, very
I
good. So,
I
we'll
hope
start
I
talking
hope you can
about.
hear me clearly.
Yeah, it's very good, beautiful. We'll start talking about a healthy relationship in the last couple of days. And we have different specialists and doctors and talking about what does it mean healthy relationship.
Healthy relationship. Okay, so I think
It's so
in order
difficult, huh?
it is a very difficult topic because, as you know, relationship. If I really want to put it in a sort of a scientific word or start that way,
Hmm.
it starts from infancy. Relationship is not something we start at age 15. It's not something we start at age 20. It
Hmm.
is what we start at birth.
When I birth
If you
with
really look
our parents.
right, the relationship literally starts at infancy. It's the way someone takes care of you, like your mother takes care of you. She feeds you and she changes you and take care of your needs, make sure you're not worried, scared. When you're panicking, they're comforting you. So it
Hmm.
basically starts from all those basic needs that any one of us have at infancy,
Yes.
right? So if
Right.
those needs are not met, and if I want to make it a little bit more clear, Maslow came up with a hierarchy of needs.
Hmm.
And the beginning of that was the physiological needs. So the basic needs that I just described, and obviously the safety and being fed, not being hungry, not being homeless, all of that stuff, right? And it
Hmm.
starts with infancy, and of course, and then the second part of it would be security. We have to feel secure. We have to
Right.
feel safe. And
Right.
if a child is not feeling safe, like for example, a child that is being neglected or abused, do you really expect them to grow up and have a healthy relationship? It would be extremely difficult unless they work on themselves for years and years and years. Even with that, I'm not sure if there is a possibility. And then, of course, the third level of hierarchy in the level of needs comes love, right? We all
Hmm.
need to be loved. We all need to know that somebody cares for us and we are important. We matter to someone, and that starts with our parents as well. All the people that are in the basic structure of our healthy growth, teachers, all the people that we are in contact with, all our friends. If we are bullied too much in school, if we grow up with a lot of stress, and
Hmm.
we don't learn how to manage that stress, somebody else is not there to take care of that and take that away from us and let us grow in a healthy relationship. In terms of relationship with others, we grow up to have problems developing relationship, right? Because every time one of those issues that we have experienced in childhood shows up in our life when we are a grown up, we react to it, and sometimes our reaction could be dangerous. We lose
Right.
people. We have a communication that misses a lot of the elements that is needed in there, right?
Right.
Including how to express ourselves, how to express what kind of a love do I need, what works for me. We're going to have an issue with that. And
Hmm.
then, of
Hmm.
course, comes to the need of self-esteem. So there is at one point we have to know that we are confident enough, that we belong to the rest of the society. We have to feel we're not isolated, we're not separated from the rest of the people. We are part of the gang, sort of. A healthy relationship, when unhealthy relationship is when somebody joins gang and becomes a drug dealer or does something else because they have not been taught what is a correct way of developing a relationship with themselves and others. So self-esteem, in my opinion, and a level of dignity, a good character within yourself, believing in yourself, makes a huge difference in developing a good relationship. When you don't have a good view of yourself, you're not going to have a good view. You're not basically projecting a good view of yourself into the society in
Hmm.
relations to others.
Right. So you mentioned about security, trust, and another wall is commitment in relationship, and the
Absolutely.
communication is another wall. And you mentioned about the roof is love, and it's like a small house, right? And we should
Right.
build this relationship. And the first step, uh, if we back to our childhood, is to start with trust and security.
Trust
right?
and security.
Trust and security as a
mhm,
baby, because
absolutely.
it's a
And,
connection with
and
the
and the and the level of care, and the level
exactly
of care
level
that
of
you're
care.
receiving is extremely important. Can
Yes.
you imagine if God forbid, someone ends up in a hospital, right? If
Mm-hmm.
they don't know if they can actually trust a doctor, if they don't
Mm-hmm.
know if they can trust a nurse, if they
Right.
don't know in the level of care that is being provided to them, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of a person is in the hospital right now? We have a person who's falling apart with
Mm-hmm.
stress,
Mm-hmm.
probably depressed, doesn't know what's going to happen to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the same thing with an infant. They have to learn from the beginning, what does it mean to trust someone? What does
Right.
it mean when someone says I care for you? And it doesn't have to be with language. It's not. Sometimes, you communicate with someone and you see their body language tells you that they like you, right? It's
Right.
not just in words.
Exactly.
The way they smile at you, the way they look at you,
Exactly.
they may stare at you. So it's
Exactly.
not always with words. Parents, when they're raising a child, they're not necessarily doing it with words. So it's the way they come to your rescue, come to your care, the way they handle you. You pick up all that stuff, and it becomes the basic structure of your development. And it does affect your relationship in the future. And of course, when we are talking about relationship, there are all kinds of relationship, and I don't know if you want me to get into it, but the
Yeah,
relationship
we are
usually
talking
is
about
not just the
the relationship probably this week. Maybe we're going to continue next week, because there's a lots of thing, there's a lots of detail,
yes,
and I like to talk with, at least talk about each one for a few minutes. We don't want to just jump to
right,
the next and jump to the next
of
one,
course.
because it's very very tough
It is a very delicate
topic,
topic.
especially in this time of COVID-19 situation, and we are home. Some people, they had a lack of the relationship problem, something, and now is goes worse and worse. Some people,
Absolutely.
they didn't have problem, but now they start having problem. Maybe they had, but they was busy with work and they didn't care about that. But
Hmm.
now they are home,
Absolutely.
they are together at home, and there's a lots of things. So you want to start? Do you like to start with communication, or you want to
Uh,
start
uh,
with which part you decide? You can talk about.
I think
Go
I,
ahead.
I want to basically point out what kind of relationship you're talking about, because we do
Okay.
obviously don't have one type of relationship. In
Right.
this day and age, we have a monogamous relationship, which we all know
Exactly.
about. It used to be between men and women, because
Mm-hmm.
you would not be accepted into the society if it was
Mm-hmm.
between two men or
Right.
between two women. It
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to be a man and a woman, hopefully in a relationship of marriage or something like that, right?
Let's start
Boyfriend,
with the
girlfriend, so
romantic relationship between,
romantic relationship, right?
yes,
A
now
man and a
because we
woman,
have
right?
because we have relationship with our parents, with our
Absolutely.
friends, with our
Co-workers.
workers, everybody, right? So but
Right.
now because I heard lots of problem, and all of you, specialists in this field, every day you mention this one and the divorce goes higher and higher. We have a number of very bad number in China, very bad number in Europe, and probably in United States coming this month or next month. So let's start with this, and then which part you want to start today? This is your
I,
choice.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
start with relationship in sort of this basic structure of a relationship. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
we have a more clear understanding of what does it
Perfect.
mean, what does relationship really means. So
Amazing.
the like basic ingredients of a relationship, I want to say. Obviously, we know relationship between two adults or two people that fall in love with each other. So they have a relationship based on feelings and emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That type of relationship sometimes may start with a communication,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes may just start with an attraction, right? You look at
Okay.
someone, you say, oh my God, wow, this person should be in my life. Now, the relationship between these two could start with an attraction and sort of a communication, but they may not really communicate their needs with each other as much, right?
Yeah, just
And
the
then their
attraction.
need, right. And then when they get married or they get together during over the course of a period of time, their needs might change. They
Oh,
might
of
take a
course.
different course, right? Somebody may not be able to communicate what their ambitions are. Someone might come and say, well, I wanted to be a doctor. I want to go back to school. And then the spouse would be like, what do you mean back to school? I want you to continue working so you can take care of the family.
Right.
So that's where some of the problem. I'm just giving a basic example of a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So relationship basically has ingredients, and I think, in my opinion, the basic, most fundamental, important factor in a relationship is trust.
Exactly.
If you and I don't trust each other, we can definitely have no relationship of any kind. Not as co-workers, not as friends, as nothing, right?
Yeah, but trust, by my knowledge, trust need a basic, we need to know each other first, believe each other, and then trust is coming. If someone just say, oh, I trust you in the first day, right? That's not a healthy trust.
Some people do that.
Yeah, this is not a healthy trust.
Absolutely.
Right.
Some people do that. Again,
some people they are in love in the one hour, one day, and the day after they said, I heard a lot. And we had this topic a month ago when we were talking about the love. I don't know, do you remember or not? Some people, they said, no, love is coming for a minute, hour, a day. I'm in love with just see someone. I said, this is not love. This is just attraction, physical attraction or sexual attraction.
Infatuation. I call that a little bit of an infatuation, like you're infatuated with someone. And that love could easily diminish and go away when your needs come up, or maybe that thirst, right? And that fire goes out, your love goes out too. So that love comes based on a fire, a fuel, like you said, attraction. It could be a sexual attraction. It could be all kinds of different. It could be an attraction because this person represents a person that was in your life in the past. It could represent your mother. It could represent your father. It could represent someone that you looked up to, right? You may look at that person and say, oh my God, this guy is
someone we more, don't like that one, dislike that one.
Right. So and you'd be surprised. Human beings are so complicated. Sometimes they pick someone that they didn't even like growing up. They always wanted to change that person.
99% is this.
Yeah. They bring a man or a woman into their life so they can change them. Human beings are so weird. We're crazy creatures, right? So but I would say the basic structure of all of this starts with trust. And obviously, if we can't really trust ourselves, we really cannot have a serious trust with someone else, because we obviously have a trust issue. We have a trust issue, and it's about me. I need to work on my own trust issue. I can't just look at someone and say, I don't trust you. Based on what factor do you don't trust that person? You have to have a reasonable argument if you don't trust the person. Some people say, well, I just looked at him. He didn't look trustworthy. Based on a look? So if somebody looks like Brad Pitt, you trust him?
No, or based on just a sign or assumption. Or some people based on assumption. They say, oh, because they're starting mind reading, and I think he did this or she did that. That's why I think gonna be this and that. All is based on assumption, and then I don't trust that person anymore.
And sometimes they don't do their own study. They basically take it from someone else. You may be a best friend with someone and you say, well, I trust her. I've known her for a long time, right? So he may put his trust on you because you said you trust her. So he starts trusting her. Does that mean does that mean it's a real? No, it's just someone else's opinion has been assimilated into your own thinking. Right. And you're thinking, okay, now based on that, I can trust. So I would say definitely trust is number one. Between two people, love is extremely important, and I think love without respect is impossible. You have to if you really say I love a person, you need to respect them, you need to give them attention, you need to have open communication. Now open communication is a big issue on its own, but I want to say that these five are extremely important in any kind of relationship, because if either one of them is not there, the romantic relationship becomes romantic more based on love and care. It's not because of sex, right? If it's because of sex, then you have a sexual relationship. You do not have a monogamous,
This is not, it's not
loving
the,
relationship that we are talking about. It becomes a
th-
totally different kind of relationship. It becomes friends with benefit kind of a relationship, or whatever
exactly.
else people call it, right? So it's very different. In the reason I say it has to be open communication is because if we really want to have a relationship, there is no relationship without communication. We know that, right? We're not
Exactly.
animals. We have to
Yeah, exactly.
communicate
The
with each
main
other.
things in any relationship, in especially in communication, I believe effective communication, as you mentioned, open communication is the same. Effective
Right.
communication, there we have a different step to start healthy
Absolutely.
communication.
The only way to be on the same page, two people have to communicate. They can't just assume, right? If you
Right.
don't communicate, then you assume that that person said this or is thinking that or is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the biggest problem when people start assuming.
Oh yeah.
Assumption is the biggest problem between all marriages that I've seen, all
Oh
the
yeah.
relationships that I've seen in 22 years. The most important thing when I bring them together and they talk and they tell me in front of me what's going on and I put it in the right place, they're like, oh, so for the last 10 years, I assumed this. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's because you really didn't have an open communication with each other. And
Exactly.
when I say open communication, I'm talking about not pointing finger, sort of using I statement. When this happened, I felt this way, not that you did this to me. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? It's
Yeah.
more of a this is how I felt. That doesn't mean that if somebody else was in the room, he would have felt the same way. Someone else could feel totally different. This is the way I felt. So you're really not pointing finger. You're just trying to resolve an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Resolving an issue starts with I statement, and that
Right.
takes a lot of practice. Obviously, then we have to be kind. We have to be fun. We have to compliment someone even in a communication. We have to compliment someone. That was a
Exactly.
very nice thing you said. That was a very kind thing that you said. That was a wonderful thing that you mentioned. I'm so
Beautiful.
happy that you remembered what I said. And obviously, in a communication, open communication, it is extremely, in my opinion, important to double check to make sure that you clearly understood what someone else said. So you
Right.
check. Did I make any sense?
Clarify.
What does that?
You should
Yeah,
clear.
clarify.
Okay.
Thank you. You said
Okay.
it better.
Yeah.
Clarify.
I heard this. I want to make sure. Do you mean this? Okay.
Exactly. Because obviously,
And not
even
just one
today, look
time.
at the social
Sometime.
media.
Sorry, I interrupt you. Sorry.
No, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
please. You're not interrupting.
Yeah. Sometimes I thought I heard that, but I asked and she explained I should ask again to make sure 100%. I want to make sure, sweetheart, I want to make sure I understand you. Could you please tell me again, what do you mean about this? When everything is clear, and then we can moving with the next
Absolutely.
step.
And if you look at in the past few years, what is the biggest source of miscommunication? Social media. We started texting each other, right?
Right.
So in a text, you may misunderstand what I just said, right? You may take a different view and say, "Oh, did you mean this? No, I didn't mean that. I meant this."
A lot
Or
of time.
on
Yeah.
Facebook, we may put a like under someone's post and they say, "Did you like that?" No, I didn't mean I like it. I meant I was trying to say that I read it. You see what I mean? So it's not a clear communication because we're not talking about it. We have to put it into words, and then we have to double check to make sure that our words was understood by the other party in the level of understanding that they have. We can't assume that they're in the level of the VO. It just doesn't work like that. We have to
Right.
assume that that person, based on their own understanding, they have certain level of comprehension. That level of comprehension may require double checking to make sure they got it. They got the message a little bit more clearly. So
Yes.
that's basically that.
We
It's
just
very
start.
rough.
Yeah, we just started to talk
It is.
about
It's a very
healthy
big
and
topic.
unhealthy relationship, and there's a lots of things we're gonna talk about all things, but still we have time. If you have time, we can go
Absolutely, I do.
5 more minutes.
Sure.
Sorry, and so yeah, but I like to stay in this area about the trust and communication, because communication we can talk about the communication at least 3 days seminars just for to learn about how we can have a healthy communication, or
Absolutely.
effective communication. Let's go with the effective communication. Dr. Kat, what do you think about effective or open communication? There is a different step. Could you please review all
So,
this? You started already with the start to understand each other, listen to each other, and make sure and make it clear I understood you or not. And then,
mhm. If I want to say very basic,
mm-hmm,
what is said by me is not
mm-hmm,
necessarily what is received by the other party. At the
exactly.
same time, there is that we have to understand that human beings pick up on cues, and they have feelings, and they pick up on non-verbal communication as well, right? So I
Right.
may tell someone, but I really love you and I really care about you, but I'm sitting with my body closed. I look depressed, I look sad, or and then they may get a clue, they may get a wrong feeling, like, what does that supposed to mean? What kind of a love is this that you never touch my hand, or you never talk to me in a different way? What kind of a communication is this when your non-verbal body language is showing a different sign? So we
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure when we communicate, it's sort of showing in our body language as well. Our communication should be that open. And number one. Number two, it depends on at what stage of a relationship are we talking about communication. Oftentimes people want to get into a relationship and then they're thinking about marriage and other stuff, and they want to move forward with having that picket fence and having 2 kids and all of that stuff, right? But what they don't understand is that the communication that they have should be based on certain things. What are those certain things that mostly breaks almost every marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is their values. What is it that they're standing for? If they don't communicate their values clearly with each other, it could become an issue in the future. If they don't talk about their religion, if they're, I'm not saying they're necessarily very religious, but if they don't talk about it, it could become an issue in the future, unless they're
Absolutely.
both from the same religion, so it's a little bit easier.
But
If
it's
they
still,
if they don't
but it's
talk
still
about,
they need to talk about that because some people they are
absolutely,
religious, but some people,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I have had a lot of couples that come and
Mm-hmm.
see me and they say, "Well, I want to send my kid to the Montessori school,"
Mm-hmm.
and the other party says, "No, no, no, I definitely do not want him to go any religious school." They're like, "No, I'm not going to have that. I have to have it this way." They've already been married and they already have 2 kids. What are you going to
Right.
do now? You're going to start fighting over this issue? It should have been communicated prior to the marriage. That's why I always recommend, and I'm sure a lot of psychologists out there or psychiatrists out there recommend, you have to have a premarital consultation or
Okay.
counseling to come up with some of these important issues, be able to communicate it before you take the next necessary step. And of course, talk about your political views as well. I think that's very
Mm-hmm.
important these days. A lot
Yeah.
of people have totally different political views and they get
Mm-hmm.
into war with each other,
Mm-hmm.
literally. You
Mm-hmm.
like Trump, I don't like Trump. They get
Mm-hmm.
into it and becomes a huge factor in their life. And
Right.
one of the things one more thing I'm going to say, I don't know if the time is up, or should
No.
I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay. One more thing about the relationship. When we talk about open relationship, we have to make sure that our communication, while it's open, we're also open to listen, to understand, and change. Because a communication between two people, if one person is stubborn and is not willing to accept mistakes and move from that position and make a change, doesn't matter how many years you communicate with each other, right? If I
Right.
don't accept my mistakes and I stick to my guns and say, no, it is what I said, it is what you said, but is it moving, is it helping your relationship, is your relationship moving forward, is it developing, is it growing, or is
Right.
it being destroyed? If it's being
Mm-hmm.
destroyed, that form of communication is not helping, right? So we
Right.
have to have an understanding that we sometimes make mistakes. If we admit those mistakes and be willing to make a change, the other party is going to be more engaging with us,
Mm-hmm.
more willing to communicate with us, more
Mm-hmm.
willing to listen to us, right? Obviously, it opens the door for talking about even bigger things, the harder things that we don't want to talk about. Because then we have an understanding that the other person is open minded, is willing to listen to my feelings,
Mm-hmm.
listen to what I'm trying to communicate. They accept their mistakes. Like, you just said something to me that was hurtful. Then
Mm-hmm.
I accept responsibility and I say, oh, I apologize. I'm so sorry for what I said. And I try not to do that again. And that would make them not feel that they have been put down or they have been sort of pushed aside. Your feelings are not important. My feelings are important. What I say should go. You know, in the old days, that's how it was. They would call it mad salary in Iran, right?
Right.
A man would say something. It's my word. That's it. Nobody else should be talking. No kids, no parents, no mother, no father, nothing. I just said it. And that mentality is dead these days. It doesn't work like that anymore. That kind of a communication doesn't work.
You're absolutely right. I want to share something with you and all of our, audience. So, in my last relationship, all the time she mentioned, why you start all the time? You start with no, and then you just coming with reaction. Why you don't listen to me? I started working on this, all things deeply, and I learned, now I know we should listen to understand, not listen for reaction.
Or response.
I have, because response is based on understanding, and responsible person, doing a response. So, but unfortunately, most of us, we are listening for reaction. We are not listening to understand. I have a comedy picture on my Instagram. I put the tape, and I said we should listen for understanding, not reaction. And it's very, very important things you mentioned. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate, and I hope to see you next time. And we're going to continue about relationship. It's very, very tough topic.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
I appreciate it.
Have a
Thank
good
you so
evening.
much. You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye
Sure.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.